Welcome back to another episode of Wicked Darkness. I'm Kathy, your host, and with me tonight I have Heather
Hi.
and I have Kevin.
Good evening.
So, guys, we're talking about the butcher of Plainfield, Wisconsin, Ed Gein. Um, Guy is a creepy guy. But let's get right into it, okay? Ed Gein,
Hmm.
butcher of Plainfield, known as Edward Theodore Gein, was born on August 27th. Creepy. That's my dad's birthday. But 1906. And his mother, Augusta, and his father, George, they lived in La Crosse, Wisconsin, which isn't too far away. It was what, 3 hours away from us right now? Something like
Yep.
that. Um,
Yeah,
so they lived in La Crosse and then they moved to Plainfield, which is, I don't know, hour and a half away from
yeah,
La
it's not
Crosse
terribly
area.
far. Yeah,
Yeah,
it's
it's
pretty
not,
close.
yeah. They also had another son. His name was Henry. And it was just the two boys, mom and dad, and they all moved to Plainfield when Ed was a little boy, uh, right after his birth, moved to the farm. George, the father, he wasn't around too much longer after, Ed had gotten a little older and Henry got a little older. He was described more like a weak and drunk person. Um, Mom kind of like seemed to be the focal point of the family, it seems like. Ed was viewed by the residents kind of like a odd outcast kind of person. They don't live like in Plainfield. They live like the outskirts of Plainfield. So it's like on the other side of the highway. So it's not like they live in downtown, if you could call it downtown Plainfield. Um, they live probably about 4 or so miles away from the actual town. Um, so they always saw him like kind of as an odd duck. Later on in life, no one really suspected the dark side of him, the part that nobody thought was going to happen. And that was his murderous side. Um, and like I said, George, the dad, he died April 1st. Kind of ironic. April Fools on the Gein family. 1940. Many suspected that it was due to his alcohol consumption, but there was never an official release, no autopsy or anything like that. Henry was the brother of Ed. He died on May 16th, 1944. Uh, their their farm is now, to look at it, it doesn't look like it, but back then there was like marshlands and they had um, a fire that happened. So Ed and Henry went out to try to save the family farm from this blaze that was consuming the land. And they went out looking for, because the boys came back, but Henry didn't actually come back. It was just Ed. And there's a news article about it that his body wasn't discovered till um, afterwards when they had called out the fire department and everything. They put the fire out, and that's when they found Henry's body. Um, Upon the results of the autopsy, Henry did not die in the fire. There was no smoke inhalation, and that would show up like in his mouth, in his lungs, but nothing. That was all clear. So he had died prior to the fire reaching him. Uh, but they're saying that it was a heart attack. But to this day, many think that Ed had something to do with his brother's death. They didn't see anything on the autopsy other than, the heart attack. There was no trauma that they have noted or anything like that. But it was kind of weird that Ed was the first one to really find him. He found him quickly.
Yeah.
Is it because he knew where they were originally? I don't know, but it was kind of odd. Um, so there's a article that Heather was able to find. And in the article, it's like the funeral services that were held for him. Henry was 42 when he died. They say in the article that he died of a heart attack while trying to protect his farm from the ravages of the grass and the brush fire. Being a former firefighter, I know that grass and brush fires can be deadly. Yet they can get out of control fairly quickly. And back then, they didn't have the equipment that we do nowadays for fire service, and the tools and the knowledge that they have nowadays didn't exist then either. Um, on top of that, it was a volunteer fire department, so it's not like these guys were like hanging out at the fire station. They had to leave their jobs or their lives to go run to the fire department, get the equipment, and then go out to the farm. And like I said, we saw the fire station in downtown Plainfield. I don't know if it's the same location that they had back then, but again, they don't live close. It's about 4 miles away at least from downtown area. Uh, he lived on the farm with his mom and his brother, and they said that the burning was over their marsh on Tuesday when the fire escaped control and required the emergency help of the crew of the volunteer firefighters. And at day's end, with the fire under control, the men returned to their homes when it was discovered that Henry had not come in with the others. So then they sent out a search party, and this was at nighttime because they're using lanterns and flashlights and stuff, searching the burned area, trying to see if they can find Henry. And finally, they found his dead body laying face down. And apparently, the man had been dead for some time when they found him, and it appeared that the death was a result of a heart attack, since he had not been burned or otherwise injured. And then they said that they're having the services done in Plainfield, and that he is survived by his mother and brother, and they live um, all their lives in Plainfield, and he was unmarried. Rumor had it though that Henry had Ed had something to do with his death. I've heard in the past, and I don't know if it's true, that the rumor was that Ed had smacked Henry in the head and knocked him out. Um, could that have, caused him to have a heart attack? Who knows? I mean, he was 42, but doesn't look like they were that out of shape. They were farmers and stuff, but um, I don't know. It was kind of suspicious. Um, Heather, what do you know about Mrs. Gein, mom?
So mom's name is Augusta Wilhelmina Gein. She has always been pictured as someone who ruled her home with an iron fist, due to the fact that like she was the only parent kind of in the home at the time due to the father's absence. Looks like he had originally owned some type of grocery store, and then the alcoholism kind of had taken its toll, and that's when they had moved to the farm, and the boys had uh, basically no formal education growing up. It was thought that she never wanted to have sons initially, and she kept her sons from getting an education. Most of the education that was provided to Henry and Ed was received through farm chores, farm work, and studying the Bible. And she viewed women in the town as immoral and harlots. Like neither of the men, like they said in the article, had ever moved out of their home or had relationships outside of Augusta. Um, Soon after Henry's death, Augusta suffered a severe stroke, and Ed had cared for her inside their farmhouse. This farmhouse had no plumbing or electricity. So, I can only imagine how hard it must have been trying to take care of this woman who might have, had mobility issues, needs that she needed to have met, and having no way of providing that. And it's just him and her by themselves. Um,
And they
and
didn't
then
have a ranch style home either.
no, they had a rustic farmhouse. I mean, it was 2 stories. So not only was Ed in charge of taking care of his mother full time, that he also had to keep the farm going or to keep some type of income coming in to keep the farm going. So he would take odd jobs throughout the town, fixing cars or, moving hay bales or what have you, just to keep it going. Um, and then unfortunately, Augusta suffered a second stroke on December 29th, 1945, at the age of 67. That was after they were going to another local farm to grab hay for their livestock. And some of the rumors that have been said is that she became so distraught after seeing women on the farm that were wearing lipstick and skirts that she kind of threw herself into another stroke. But that's never been proven. But unfortunately, that did leave Ed alone for the rest of his life. Um, in doing so, that kind of, I feel like, was maybe more of a catalyst for Ed. Um, and that is unfortunately where some of his victims and crimes start. Mary Hogan, she was a 51-year-old tavern owner who disappeared in 1954. Um, Ed later admitted to killing her. Investigators found her head in a box in his home. Bernice Worden was a 58-year-old hardware store owner who went missing in November of 1957. Um, Police found her decapitated and disemboweled body in Gein's shed. Um, and unfortunately, right when Ed is discovered to have all of these memorabilia and possessions and bodies, that's when the rumor mill starts flying in these small towns. So people began suspecting that many other people from nearby towns and local teens were missing. Georgia Jean Weckler, an 8-year-old who disappeared near her home in 1947, was one of his supposed victims. Victor Travis and Ray Burgess were two hunters who vanished near Gein's farm in 1952. Evelyn Hartley, a 14-year-old babysitter who went missing in 1953, is another suspected victim. And then on top of that, all of the unknown victims whose body parts and skin were taken from Ed's home during his extensive grave robbing, and then later on with the evidence collection. So it's just very sad.
It is.
And I think
Well,
it's
oh, go
worth
ahead.
calling, I was going to say, I think it's worth calling out that, Ed was, you know, like true classification kind of was a serial killer because he killed more than one person, but he wasn't a very smart killer because when he killed Bernice Worden, the thing that led the police back to the house was the fact that there was a receipt that she had started to write out for him buying um, antifreeze.
Yeah.
And he was enamored with Bernice Worden because Ed was, uh, I don't know if I'd say obsessed with his mom, but idolized his mom,
Oh,
loved
for
his
sure.
mom, took very loving care of her, and I guess he was pretty obsessed with Bernice. Would come into the hardware store on a pretty regular basis, tried asking her out, and just kind of wouldn't leave her alone.
Right. And when you're mentioning all these deaths, and we didn't talk about how big Plainfield is. There's what, 900 people in there today? 900 and
Yeah,
what was it?
900
960?
and change. Yeah,
Yeah. So it's not
Mhm.
that big of a town, and that's now. That's not then. So
yeah,
you're talking about a lot of deaths within a small community, which is unheard of. I mean, we live in towns or cities now that are 100,000 plus, and you know, we have all those deaths now, but you have a list of people from 900 people. That's that's a significant amount of people that went missing or died, and unsolved,
yeah,
Yeah.
at least until the receipt was found.
yeah. Yeah, it wasn't too hard to figure out who to go to for who had possibly seen Bernice last, and that's how they ended up coming to the house and finding her hooked up by her heels and flayed almost, well, gutted like a deer. Ed, being a farmhand, was pretty well versed in, butchering, slaughtering animals. So that's kind of how he treated Bernice, more or less. Um, you know, police never had probably never seen anything like that before, and certainly were horrified by what they had discovered, with her hanging from her torso down to the pubic bone to her neck. That's a pretty aggressive cut.
Yeah.
Yeah. And those that have deer hunted before, that's pretty much what they do with the deer. They hang them up by their back legs, and not to get gruesome, but it's pretty much the same thing. They just cut them all the way down and, you know,
Yeah.
remove the insides and, kind of let your imagination go from there. Um it is a gruesome sight. I mean, what else did they find? Kevin, do you know what else they found
Oh,
in the house?
certainly a number of body parts. I mean, and Ed certainly seemed to be a bit of a collector, but also a little bit of a crafter, if you will, because it wasn't just cutting up and taking parts from grave sites. I mean, you think of the Texas Chainsaw Massacre and the scene in there where there's, you know, furniture fashioned from bones and, lampshades made of human flesh. I mean, those are the same things that were found in Ed's house in a belt made out of female nipples. And he definitely was trying to recreate a human flesh body skin to wear that had human legs and female parts all sewn together. And, he was rumored to wear that around in the house to feel like I don't know, maybe he felt like it was a closeness of his mom missing. I think Ed definitely had a pretty significant turning point after his mom passed away. I think that's kind of where the pin finally came unhinged.
Yeah. Because it seems like none of this happened before mom, or at least it doesn't show that this had happened before mom had passed. It seems like all of this happened after her
Yeah,
death.
she was kind of the catalyst for sure. Another thing people were, speculating was that, is it because she wanted daughters so badly that he was trying to fill
Mm,
that role, you know, almost like if he was a female,
Mhm.
then she would have stuck around or, had a better relationship or
Right. But he didn't touch his mom's grave.
you know,
That
no.
was kind of weird that he didn't, he went. I, I I guess because he had so much respect for his mom, or he was terrified to
Hmm.
reopen that. I don't know.
well, and it wasn't only the grave that he didn't touch. I know Kevin had done some research into kind of what the state of the house looked like as well, besides all of
Hmm.
the items that were in there.
Yeah, he was basically bringing garbage into the house, almost like a hoarder. The house
Yeah.
was an absolute mess, and, you know, different parts he was using as, skulls being used as bowls and bones being used as cutlery, you know, different flesh masks that he was fashioning, and just very strange. I don't know that we've ever seen anything like that in the history since Ed Gein. Not not to this degree anyway. I'm sure that there's probably cartel people that have taken bases, but not like this. It's just very, very bizarre.
I don't think we've really even seen anything like this in the United States. I mean, if you were to go back in time, I'm sure they did something like this, you know, in ancient times, but, you know, now, 20th century, 21st century, that I don't think anybody's ever gone to that degree. But he didn't touch mom's rooms though, right? Where she lived. He left that alone, kind of like a time capsule type thing. And then like her bedroom and the living room, that she had, those were left pristine. There wasn't the hoarding or anything like that in those rooms. It was like he blocked those rooms off.
Yeah. Yeah,
Yeah,
those were like the off-limits rooms to the house.
yeah, I had
So
heard
is
that.
that fear or is that love? Or is it
Yeah,
both?
yeah,
Right. It's hard to say. I mean, it's a big house from the pictures. I mean, it's a farmhouse. It's 2 stories. Plus it looks like an addition on the back of it. So it's a pretty decent size home. And then the land itself was, you know, pretty big too. Um so with him, they somehow, once they figured it out that it was him, uh house burned down mysteriously, but before that they did like an auction.
yeah, yeah. They were trying to help with the expenses for, I think it was like either his legal fees or the reburying of the bodies. I know they were doing some excavation of other like grave sites that they felt maybe that were connected to some of the things that they were finding in the home,
Hmm.
to kind of see where they had come from. I know that with Bernice that they had exhumed her body and they did find that her head had been missing and then they had to rebury her with her head, which is very sad and I'm sure very costly for a town that was only maybe 400 people. Um,
Right.
so, and not only that, but the trauma that that puts that entire family back through.
Exactly. I mean, and then once, they captured Ed, they're asking him questions and everything, and then they took him. He states that he killed them by accident. He killed Bernice and Mary by accident, and the other body parts were just fresh graves that he dug up. Um, eh, who does that though? I mean, you really have to be out there to think, you know what, I'm gonna, kill this person and kill that person. And he knew these people too. There's
Yeah,
something that he, not on a daily basis, but they knew him and he knew them. And then just to murder them,
yeah.
cold
I mean,
blood.
there's definitely a comfortability that he had with people. Obviously they weren't super close with him,
Mhm.
but they weren't so afraid of him that they didn't interact on a daily basis. You know, they were
Right.
still asking him to do odd jobs around the town, so
And
just goes
then
to show.
they, like I said, they did the auction at the home, and then after that, somehow, some way, it caught on fire. They say that they don't have a cause reported of.
Hmm.
I'm sure they
Definitely not an
did.
electric fire.
Yeah.
It's not an
I,
electrical fire.
I'm sure that the fire department was able to figure it out, but they didn't want to release it. They just, it's done, it's over with. We can close the case on this, moving on. But then Ed was brought to the Central State Mental Hospital in January of 1958 after being diagnosed with severe schizophrenia. And after 10 years in 1968, Ed was ruled competent to stand trial, which I find hard to believe too, because he just doesn't seem to know what's happening around him. But
No.
somebody decided, yes, he is competent and we can hold a trial for him. So he was found guilty of a murder of Bernice and Mary, but but ruled not guilty due to insanity by the same bench. You're competent, but you're insane.
Right. You're guilty, but you're not guilty.
Right.
You
It's
did these horrible things, but you're really not because you're really sick. But you're okay to stand here and us to tell you that you're really sick,
right.
but you can't feel bad about it because you're sick.
But then there was another thing that I saw that like they couldn't afford to try both of them, so they picked one over the other on top of it
Yeah.
because the funding wasn't there,
Yeah.
which is kind of sad too. So it's like, did the families get justice? It's hard to say. I
Yeah.
mean, because honestly, he always only found guilty of the one, not the other one.
And it definitely seemed like that town just wanted everything kind of swept under the rug. they didn't want to talk about it. It kind of leads to the whole his house being burned down and the auction, and then everything had to be hush hush. There was, like no Ed Gein anything. Like he was never allowed to speak with reporters. He was never allowed to have visitors. Um, at one point, I heard that there was a woman who had claimed that they were sweethearts, but then when she all of a sudden got all this news media attention, she was like, "Whoa, whoa, whoa! I actually don't know." So she took it back real fast.
And Gein
Wow.
who? Yeah, that's just it's weird. And then it was like they sent him back to the mental hospital. Then they said that he was a model patient. He was mild-mannered, cooperative. The medical staff praised him for, his disposition. He spent time, the time that he had was engaged with occupational therapy and other activities, and then
I can tell you about an
he,
occupational therapy he went to.
I don't know, but,
So my aunt was in nursing school and they had to do their clinicals. And guess who she did the hokey pokey with?
oh, your
Creepy.
family. We have to
I
talk
know.
about that too. Um, we'll talk about that in a second. But then, okay, so then Gian only made one known attempt at release. And that was, where he was like, I want to be re-examined. I want to get released. I think I'm a good guy, I'm ready to go. So they did a sanity hearing that was held in June of 1974 after he had spent 17 years in the mental institute. They did an evaluation saying that he had little insight into the nature of his crimes and then how society would continue to view him and then kept him away from visitors and reporters like you were saying, and then the court rejected the bid for freedom and then recommitted him, and then he ended up transferring to Mendota. Mendota is a prison for the criminally insane, and he was there from 1978 where he died in 1984. So he stayed in Mendota, and Mendota is a very large facility. I've been there, not personally. I've been there taking patients. And it's a daunting place to go into.
Yeah.
So I mean, I haven't been to the Central State Mental Hospital. I'm not even sure where that actually is at.
It's closed now. It used to be, I believe it was like closer to Madison, but I think the
Okay.
amount of people that they had there and the funding that they were getting, it just was too much for them. So that's when they decided to close, and a lot of them were dispersed to other facilities. Mendota was one of them, Waupun, Dodge Correctional,
Yeah.
a few
And then
other
we have
ones.
Winnebago, which is now
Mhm.
another one that, is kind of a little bit smaller than Mendota, but still takes on the same look. They have bars on the windows and bars when you go into the rooms and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Um, and it's so weird to me to think that I was alive when Ed Gein was still alive. That just blows my mind still to this day.
Yep.
Like, like I always
I
think about,
wasn't.
listen, youngster,
Right. So I was almost 10.
right? But just to think about it, like you think of those things and you're like, that happened so long ago. That was in the 50s. And then just to realize, no, they're still alive. It just boggles my mind on that one. So, so we decided we were going to take a turn there because you know on top of Ed Gein doing what he did, he's turned into a cinema guru, I guess. I don't know how to say it.
Cash cow.
Yeah. So they've created other movies off of what he's done. Psycho was like the big one back in the day. Texas Chainsaw Massacre, and Silence of the Lambs. They all kind of take a part of it and a part of him and put it in there with their movies. But now Netflix has their own thing that they're going to be coming out with this week. Um, and they're going to be talking about Ed Gein's story. So we decided as a team that we were going to go up and visit because it's one thing to talk about the the person. It's a whole nother thing when you're actually there and
Yeah.
you're in the same areas that that person was at. So we went to his family's gravesite, along with the victims. And then we went over to the family farm, which does not exist. The land exists still, but the home obviously does not. Um, or any of the other buildings that were around it at the time. And then we actually went to the town and went to the location where Bernice was murdered. So that was a whole nother experience. Now, if you go to Plainfield, let's kind of describe it a little bit. So Plainfield, Wisconsin, they literally, when they say plain, they mean plain. Like Kevin and I were talking about it when we were pulling into the area. We're like, there's nothing. It's farm fields. There's
And
no
it's flat.
rolling hills or anything like that. It is flat.
Yep.
Um, the cemetery is not that far off the highway. It's literally right across from the highway. But
Yeah.
it's not close to town either. It's a couple miles outside of town.
Yep.
But it's also not even close to the Gein farm either.
Right. Yeah, it's probably 3 miles or so from the Gein farm, and it's
Yeah,
not now. Maybe it was a small cemetery back then, but it's not what I would call a small cemetery. It felt like it was probably I don't know, what would you guys say, a 15, 20 acre chunk of
something like
land?
that. There's about as many people buried there as there are people alive in the town now.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's for sure. I mean, when we were there and, you know, we didn't have a great idea of where all the placement of people were. And
No,
it took a bit of exploring to find, I mean, that's just for people listening, like just the concept of the size of this place. It's not like you'd be searching for hours. Well, you could,
no.
I guess, if you're on the wrong end of the cemetery.
Right.
But even when we were in the general area, I mean, yeah, it's big, and when you
Like
think
I had
of,
GPS going trying to find
oh,
Bernice's
that was horrible.
location. That
Yeah,
was atrocious. So I've got my GPS on my phone because we knew that Ed and Bernice were not that far away from each other. Like you could see one another from their plots. But that's only because that's what people have said. So going there and trying to find which direction to go was another thing. So I went on to find a grave and they give you the latitude and longitude of the plot, the specific plot. So I was looking up Bernice's. So I'm walking around with my GPS and it's got the little dot. And I'm like, I'm telling Kevin, I'm like, it says I'm
she's
supposed to
moving.
be here. Yeah, and now it's over here. What the hell is happening here? Like I'm going all over the place. I must have went around her plot, what, probably 6 times at least.
Mm-hmm.
Definitely a few.
Yeah, it
Yeah.
was just like I'm going around in circles. I'm like, I'm across the street now. I'm back over because it's got little streets in there or driveway type things. And I'm just going all over the place. And then you're like, here it is. Like, I was just there. Where did she come from? Like I literally was standing right
Yeah.
there. Um, but Ed does not have a tombstone.
Anymore.
Right.
Well, I
Yeah,
shouldn't say that. He does. It's just not there.
Yeah.
correct. Yeah.
From what we've heard, it's in, what did I say? The board members
Yeah,
Yeah.
the
The
of the,
basement of the house.
president of the board for Plainfield or something.
yeah, the historical
Historical Society, something along
societies.
those lines.
It's in
But
his basement.
which is probably a good thing because with this Netflix show coming out, I'm sure that a lot of people are going to start flocking to Plainfield, and I'm sure that there's going to be more attempts at vandalism,
Well,
which
it was already
is,
stolen once before.
yeah, which is really, really sad.
It is.
But there
Um,
is scratched away grass. You know, took some samples of grave dirt ourselves, you know, not a ton, you know, just a little bit. But yeah, there's two scratches of
don't worry,
where obviously it's
we left our we left a little gift for them too. Each one
Yeah.
of them.
Mhm.
So, I mean, yeah, it somebody had placed two fake flowers on Ed's, and I don't know why they did two, but it, like one is like at the head, and I don't know where the other one would be located, but you can use your imagination.
Well,
Um,
I was trying to, I know we were trying to also figure out like if the headstone would have been here, would his head been here or on the other side, or was it this way? So it was like a
Hmm.
right,
directional, because the way the cemetery is laid out, there's certain areas where it looks like, well, they're definitely going to be, the casket would be more this way, but then you look at another area and you're like, well, no, it's definitely the other way.
right,
So
yeah.
Yeah.
So you just don't know exactly which direction unless you actually saw or you were there, you know which way. I mean, you could probably go to whoever maintains the cemetery and they'll be able to tell you which direction they lay. But so it's his brother Henry, then him, then his mother, then his father that's how the plots are laid out. And Henry and mom and dad, they all have their headstones still there. And people
Yep.
have
yeah,
left coins and different things for them in memory of, their visit. Same with Bernice. Bernice, though, on her headstone, she has the EOS, which is the Order of the Eastern Star, which is an organization associated with Freemasons. That's on hers. Um, and then poor Mary, Mary doesn't have anything. Um, she was supposed to have been buried in an undisclosed spot. And it wasn't until a couple days later that we found out that they have another marker there that we had missed. And it was for the body parts that they had found. So the skin suit, another head, the masks, all that was placed in this other plot. And they just have that. It doesn't have anybody's name on it. It's just these are in memory of the people that had been passed on or whatever. I don't remember the exact verbiage that's on there, but we had missed that. That was the only one we could not find and we didn't know about either. Um, and then we decided we were gonna drive. Well, I shouldn't say that. We can back up to the cemetery. So I had placed my hand down on Ed's
Hmm.
plot, and I had my back towards Augusta. I did not get good vibes from Augusta. Augusta, for whatever reason, I just felt very uncomfortable next to her.
Hmm.
Go on Henry's side, it's fine. You go on, and I don't know if it's because I'm a female, but I did not get good vibes from Augusta's plot. I don't know what her um issue was. So okay. So the plaque had for the donation. It was donated to the in the memory of the people. Heather was just
yeah,
telling me. Um so yeah,
Another thing, sorry,
go
one
ahead.
thing that I thought was kind of interesting about the cemetery and the Gein property, and this is a little bit of a morbid comment, but the ground is so soft. I
Yes.
remember us walking around and we're all saying kind of the similar thing, like, man, I feel like I'm sinking over here.
Yeah.
It's sandy,
it's
it's
sand.
squishy. And I'm like,
Hmm.
okay, well, Ed probably didn't have a real tough time getting to bodies
No.
because of just how soft
Yeah,
the ground was. Even when we were on, and I'm skipping ahead a little bit, but at the Gein's property where the house was, and you're walking, and it almost felt like you were walking on rotted wood. Like,
Yes.
wow, is this where it was? That was the sensation I was feeling
Hmm.
when we were walking on that ground. It sent chills up my spine. Like, this is
Yeah.
not normal.
It did not feel, you're right. It did not feel normal. I was waiting for any body part to come up through the thing. Like, am I going to fall through a casket? It just, it didn't
Yeah,
feel right. I've been to, hundreds of cemeteries, but this one just felt weird walking on it.
yeah.
Um, and yeah, it probably didn't take much. And the other thing I thought of while we were there is like, what other plots did he dig? Like, we're standing in a place that he had grave robbed,
Yeah,
and which ones did he do? Like, because those
Yeah,
those body parts didn't go back to the people that they belonged to.
because there was no
right.
DNA back in the day. So
Right.
That's
And they
just
um,
it. And how many undiscovered family members, have they not account well they can't account for them anymore, but
right.
right.
yeah, the quantity is just unknown.
Right.
Maybe a best guess based on the nipples from the belt or other things, but that's just what they found in the house.
Yeah.
Right.
And he didn't even like there's video, well, it's more of tapes. And they would ask him questions about it and he's like, "Well, I don't know, I guess if that's what you guys found there, I don't know." Like he had no recollection nor did he understand what was being asked of him. He
Yeah.
would just be like, "Yeah, okay. Well, if you say that was there, then I guess, it had to have been there." Well, how'd you get the torso? Well, just it was there, I guess. You guys found it, so I must have dug it up. It just
Yeah.
he didn't seem to have the capacity. Like he just mentally did not have the capacity to understand what he had done wrong. Not that he didn't know right from wrong. I'm sure he did, but it's like dealing with a little kid. Like he wasn't, like you said, he was taught at home, but basic things of what to do around the farm and stuff like that. Not, the actual reading, writing, arithmetic that all other students have done and kids have done, from day one. He
But
didn't
he
have
also
that.
lacked the human compassion side of it, that this was somebody's loved one that he had done this to. He was just like, well, that's just a head, or that's
Right.
just a foot, or well, that I didn't really think that was a big deal. And that's kind of where that comes from. Whereas a lot of times when you see serial killers, they want to really glorify themselves. They really want to talk about all these things that they did.
Mhm.
Whereas he was kind of like, maybe, I don't know. Like, I don't really recollect that. It
Hmm.
was very much like, not necessarily downplaying it, but just kind of wasn't a big
Well,
deal to him.
it
Yeah.
leaves a void of information because you would almost expect him to say, "Oh, I was trying to recreate my mother. I missed my mom so much.
Right.
That's why there's this skin suit. Just
Right.
the logic. What was the logic? You know?
Well, and then, like I said, when we went to the farm, because that was our next stop, was the farm, and they don't have, like, we were able to find a video that had, like, the address, the number, but when we got there, that was no longer there. That was gone, but the gate was still there. And now there's, like, I don't know, some kind of building. I
Yeah,
don't
it's almost like a hunter's shed is the best way I can
Right.
describe it.
But
It's
it's locked up like Fort Knox. It has huge locks on it and good for them because I mean obviously people like us wanted to see it. And
full disclosure, there was no trespassing
there
sign
was no,
present. So
that is true. There was
we
not.
were respectful on the property. I mean, that's the important thing to mention. And it did look like that shed had a word spray painted on it. It wasn't profane, but you look at it, you're like, I don't understand what that means.
Right.
Um, but it is pretty undisturbed property in the grand scheme of things.
It is. It is. And like you were saying, like when we walked, I'm assuming it was where the house was because that's what it felt like. It was a big part of the land that was so soft. And it just
Yeah,
felt like I was like stepping into something, like into a void.
yeah.
But there was this ground that was still there. But it was like at any point I can fall through.
It felt like walking on a soft mattress.
Yeah. Yeah. But it was only in that spot, which was weird
Right, right.
because it's got like all these other different paths to get away from the property. So there's farm still around it. There's farmland, but there's like this
Loads
long
of farm.
path that was in front of like, well, I guess next to the road. There's like some trees and then there's this path and then there's the farm field. And then where the house is, or was, there's all these trees around. And there's that one building. Um, and that's about it. It's nothing big. It's not too far off the road. I mean, they do have a large driveway, so I'm sure at the time you could see the house from the road. Um, but I mean, it wasn't anything spectacular. Like I said, there's no other buildings there, except for one smaller building, kind of like an outhouse kind of size. And then now it has electricity. There's a
Yeah, there's a
like a post.
telephone pole there. Yep. And some
Yeah,
service,
yeah,
maybe for a trailer or something, to connect to the electricity. But there certainly didn't seem like there was any tire marks, like anybody had been there in a really long time, with the exception of that mode path that just felt like it went off to infinity of the
yeah.
property of whomever owns it. I mean, they're taking care of it, which is nice, but yeah, it
Right.
is
It's
out in the
definitely not
middle of farm world.
overgrown where I would assume the house used to be. That's not overgrown or anything like that. It's just an open space. But like you
Yeah,
said, Kevin, it's definitely taken care of by somebody. I don't know who. I mean, Plainfield does not, have signs going to home of Ed Gein,
no,
it's nothing like that. And then after that, then we went into town and we went to what used to be the Warden hardware store.
yep,
Um,
right on
and
Main Street.
yeah,
Yeah.
and it's literally on the corner of Main Street and I took a picture of it north, I want to say.
I think so.
I think that's what it was. But it's right on the corner, right across the street is an open lot type thing. There's like a church or something over there. And kitty corner from it is the telephone company and the 4 or 5 different stores that are there. Across the street from it is a little coffee shop now. And then next to it is like the um
Opera
dentist
House.
office and village office. And then kitty corner from that is the old opera house and the fire station. I mean, that's literally downtown.
Yep,
Yep.
20 buildings maybe.
Yeah. And it's nothing. The store itself does have stuff in there, but it looks like somebody bought the building and then tried to have it like a thrift store for a little bit. Um, and maybe they still have it open. I mean, what did it have on the window? Garage sale?
Garage
Yeah.
sale.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There was
Um,
a mannequin head in the window and some backpacks on
yeah, some
display.
clothes that were on some racks and it kind of looked like it used to be like a thrift store. Um,
And the outside is definitely like it's been in a time capsule because part of the facade is falling off. And I mean, it doesn't look like it's gotten a remodel since it was probably put up.
yeah, the only thing that's missing now is the verbiage on the building.
Yep.
That's it. And then I think on the back side they've added like that extended part where the doorway was or is. That part wasn't there before. So that's the only thing that's been added onto the building. But yeah, it's pretty much it looks the same. If you were to take the picture, that's what would how we were like, is that it? We're like looking at the picture that they had back in the day, and the building across the street that I said was the coffee shop. That one was like, yep, here's that building. Here's the building that she was killed in, and it's right on the corner. It's the same thing. They both look exactly the same as they did back in the 50s, which
Yeah.
Yeah.
is it's scary in a way to think that,
Hmm.
but also it's cool because it's like you're stepping back in time.
Yeah.
So, Heather, we were talking about your family and the history. So, when we were there, once we left downtown, we met up with your dad and your
Yep.
uncle.
Yep.
And your dad had some interesting information. So, he was saying something about the boss. Who
Yeah. I think it's the boss's wife knew Bernice, I believe it was, when she
Yeah.
was working at the hardware store. And she had plans with her at lunch, and she didn't show up for lunch. And so
Yeah.
she came to the hardware store to look for her, and the hardware store was locked up.
And that was the day that Ed had killed her.
Yep.
And he was saying that at the time that she was knocking on the door, that's when Ed was killing her,
Yeah.
which is so weird to think that, hey, my best friend, because they were best friends, my best friend's inside there, and you know, but I don't think she's there because the door's locked, so maybe she went somewhere else, stepped out for a minute, but your best friend is getting murdered, and you're right outside the door. How
Yeah.
I don't even understand how she would feel about that, like knowing that information after the fact. Like if all I had to do is break the window or something, and would she be alive today?
Yeah.
It's scary to think that. And then who was it that went to the auction?
My grandpa. My grandpa and a bunch of other farmers got in a Buick Cadillac and drove over to Plainfield for the auction. Got a little turned around and a little tipsy. Did make it to the auction.
Oh, jeez.
Your family. Your dad
Uh-huh.
he was just a hoot telling us all
Oh
these
yeah.
different
Yeah.
things.
You want some good stories? You just come to my family.
And then your aunt was doing the
Yeah.
hokey pokey with him.
Yep. Yeah, when she was in nursing school during her clinicals, they had to go to the Central State Hospital for the mental health unit. And yep, they did the hokey pokey with him.
And when we're saying hokey pokey, we're talking about the dance, okay? I just wanted to
Yeah.
clarify
Yeah.
that with
Not
people.
not not hanky panky, hokey
Yeah,
pokey.
hokey pokey. Okay. Turn yourself around.
I
That's
mean,
what it's all about, that thing.
he was very, very sick at this point. He had been incarcerated for what, 10, 15 years by that time. So
And he
wasn't
aged.
in the best of health, and it's wild because if you see the picture of him when he was first arrested,
Mhm.
um, he looks very disheveled, unkempt, skinny, like his cheeks are very gaunt. You can tell, like, just had a very, very hard life. And then when he had applied for that release, he had color back in his face. He looked almost like a completely different person.
He gained weight.
Like a
That's what.
businessman.
Yes,
Yeah,
yeah,
he was wearing a
yeah. He
suit,
had a nice suit. His hair was combed nicely. He was shaven.
but he
And
was
he even,
aged at that point. He did
yes,
age a
yeah,
lot.
Hmm.
yeah. And he said in his I don't know what they call it exactly, but it's like his ask basically to be released, that they were treating him very nicely at the hospital, and that he was happy about all of his activities he was doing there and his therapy, and like he felt like it was really working, and he was ready to go back to his normal life because now he's better and he's done his spa days basically. Like, this very, very unorganized thought process of like really what was going on there. Like he was incarcerated because he was a danger to society.
Right. And I don't think anyone in Plainfield would want him back because
No.
it's not now, now that he's getting, and I don't know why all of a sudden now he's getting all this notoriety again. Because I mean, they've had movies and stuff like that out in the past, but it just seems like it keeps growing with the momentum. And like we were saying before, Netflix is coming out this weekend with his story, which I think from just looking at the trailer, it is the most accurate so far. Besides, the documentaries where they've actually interviewed Ed himself. They have a movie that was out back in 2007. That one there just I watched that one. No offense, people, I was not a fan of that one. I think that I had watched a documentary with the director of it, and he was saying that that was the most accurate. I beg to differ. It didn't seem accurate, like the stories that we know that we have seen and everything, and we've heard ourselves, that movie just didn't seem as accurate. I'm not saying that some of the things that happened in the movie did not happen. I'm not saying that because there were things that did actually happen, but it just seemed a little more towards like the Chainsaw Massacre and, the Psycho and stuff like that. Um,
Horrified gore.
Yeah, yeah. I
Yeah.
mean, even the
Yeah.
actor, no offense to the actor, but he wasn't even close to the same size as Ed. he was more
Hmm.
muscular and everything else, and he looked like he was like a bodybuilder at one point. And I'm like, that's not Ed. Ed is a scrawny little guy, and this
Yeah.
guy just looked like he looked like he was a serial killer. And I'm talking about like the guy actually played Jason Voorhees in the past too. So I mean, he's a big guy, and Ed is nothing like that. Um, and I don't know. I I find it funny that it's just now starting to get all this notoriety though, and Plainfield doesn't want it. They're just a little town. They just want to be left off the map, forgotten. They're happy being where they are. And then all of a sudden there's people like us coming into their town. Granted, we live in Wisconsin, so I mean,
I'm sorry.
you okay, Heather?
All right. Oh, I'm surprised we didn't get chased away from, well, we didn't have anybody come to the cemetery when we were there, and we were there for about an hour, I think.
Yeah,
Um, Not a single person came to visit anybody, let alone bother us.
right.
When we're on the property of the house, I just had this feeling like, oh, somebody's gonna come cuss us off the property. But I don't know if anybody even ever came down the road.
Yeah, I was trying to think if while we were there, I mean,
And it is out in the middle of nowhere. I mean, there are truly paved roads by the house, but it is in the middle of farm suburbia.
right.
There's no other house in sight of where the Ed Gein house was from standing on the corner of the street. So
No, I mean his house is pretty much right on the well, a little off the corner, but there was a
yeah,
scary point while we were there that Kevin and I were on the back side of that building where the house we assume used to be, and we turned around and Heather is no longer there. And we're
yeah.
like, okay, did she go down one of these paths? What
The
happened?
beginning of Blair Witch.
Right. We're like,
I threw the
um,
map away, you guys. Don't judge me.
Yeah.
The witch told me to
like
do it.
looking around, we're like, Heather, hello.
It was
And
the bugs.
and then Kevin's like,
They
well,
were
hopefully,
aggressive.
hopefully she went back to the car. And we're
Yep.
walking closer and we're like, okay, can't really see in the car yet. Okay, there she is.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And
She's
we were like,
alive.
Yep.
what just happened? Like, did somebody like, because you were on the other side of the building. We were on
Yep.
the back side of the building. So I'm like, oh, great. Did somebody come out of the building? No, is she in the building?
You're right.
Is this Ed Gein part two? I mean, what's happening here?
I like how no one yelled for me though either. You just were casually like walking around like, where'd she go? Like,
Well,
hopefully she's in her car.
that's because Kevin knocked on the building and there's a window on the backside and he knocks on it and I'm like, dude, I'm gonna get shot in the butt
Yeah.
because of you.
Just want to see if anybody was home.
I was at the lookout. I was the lookout. Okay.
Yeah.
Like we do not
I was gonna start honking at some point if somebody
we
came
we
up. I was like, "What are y'all doing?"
we
Yeah.
don't go and trespass on places, but this one here had no trespassing signs up. When I say no trespassing, there was no trespassing signs. So it wasn't like there was like this whole thing. Yes, there was a gate, but the gate, I don't even know why they even have the gate because there's nothing else around. It's literally a gate in the middle of the driveway. It's more of like you can't drive a car, but you can walk around
Yeah,
it
yeah.
because they
Yeah.
don't have
And I
like
mean, the woods are all open. I mean, you could see the path from the road and just walk through the woods to get
right,
there.
right.
Yeah.
So I mean, it's not it there, and of course we were being very respectful too. I mean, we're not going to go in and do a lot of hoopla and all that stuff. And so I mean, we were trying to be as respectful as possible. If anybody came up to us, we would have said, "Okay, we'll leave, no problem," whatever.
Yeah.
But that wasn't the case. There's no houses near him. In fact, we kept seeing deer flying by the road. They're jumping across the road and whatever, and it literally was in the middle of nowhere. Farm fields all around.
Yeah. I mean, I can imagine whoever has that property now would probably would like to keep it so that there's not a bunch of homes and buildings because it's gonna attract more people to come there, and like you never know if the house was already burnt down once and
Right.
then you spend money to build a house on that land for whatever reason, you don't want somebody coming in there and vandalizing your property now just because it's associated with that person. So
Right, right. So I mean it you know, it was a very nice experience to be able to go there and see it in person, and it, like I said, it puts a whole new twist on things, a new perspective of what it was like. And for the people, like when they say that he lived on the outside of town, he really did. And like the cemetery is not close to anything either. And it is a large cemetery. It's not something that you would think Plainfield would have. You would think that Plainfield has this tiny little cemetery, and no, it's quite large.
Yeah.
Um, but again, being very respectful and um, paying our respects and stuff like that. And then going to the site where um, Bernice had taken her last breath. It was humbling to see it. Like this is where somebody had died. And it's like in my head, I'm like, how would I feel? Like this is the last thing that I see. I don't see my family or
Mm.
anything. This is it.
mhm.
So, um, Plainfield is a very nice town. Not much to do there.
I'd live there.
Yeah, I mean it's a quiet little community. When I say quiet little community, the the block next kitty corner from the hardware store, on one end of the block was a church, on the other end was the
The
phone
phone company.
company, and right next to the phone company was another little church. So it was like church, another business, church, telephone company. And
Or
then
whatever's in that building.
yeah, I I don't know what I'm not sure because I don't even know if they even have the telephone company working anymore. I'm not really even positive about that. But yeah. It
It
but
looks
it
pretty
was
old.
it was nice to be able to see the location and kind of feel what it was like. Not not exactly, being in the same situation that they were back then. But like I said, it's totally different going there, and then you get a different perspective of the what the community was going through at that point, kind of putting your feet in the ground of where these people were and stuff. If
Hmm.
that makes any sense. What'd you guys think of the place?
I'm a country boy, so I love being out in the middle of nowhere. It could have used some hills, but it was quiet and everything was really clean. So I do have to say that. I mean, not every small town is clean because
Mhm.
some of the buildings are, I won't say abandoned. The Opera House does look pretty abandoned because the front is separating from the building. But overall, though, I mean, the people care about the town. I mean, it's even the cemetery is meticulous.
Mhm.
Mhm.
So it's a place that I would go back to even to visit. But I mean, I'd feel comfortable living there. It checks a lot of boxes.
Yeah. Heather, you were born closer
Yep.
to them than we
Yeah.
were. What are
Yeah.
your
I
thoughts of the
was
place?
so I was born in Portage, which is like 15 miles, I think it is, from Plainfield. My family has always been farmers, so kind of like connected up there a little bit more. It's just it to me it doesn't have like any type of weird creepy vibes. It
Mm.
feels very like central to community there. Like they are all very close, and like
Yeah.
I feel like small communities like that should feel safe,
Hmm.
and it makes me feel sad that someone, who was kind of viewed as someone in the community kind of tore that fabric basically of like, feeling safe in a small town and like knowing your neighbor and trusting those people. And you think it was such a different time back then for kids who, their parents were their education system. The farms were how they made money and that's everything they did in their entire life. They weren't allowed to go travel, they weren't allowed to see the world, they weren't allowed to marry without their parents' permission. So
Mhm.
just think about that. And then the underside of it too is that both of those women who lost their life to him, they were older and they were single women,
Mhm.
which was also kind of frowned upon back in the 50s.
Right.
You weren't really seen as the productive member of society without having a husband. So just
Right.
makes me think like how sad it was that people didn't really take Mary's disappearance seriously at first, because she was a barkeeper,
Mhm.
and she was kind of viewed as someone who was kind of in the underbelly of their small town. And it wasn't until Bernice had disappeared that they really were like, oh, this is really going on here.
Right. Right. Yeah, I mean, it does it seems like it is a town that you can walk around and feel safe. I mean, it's got a little bit of a highway, but nothing major. It's not like an interstate. It's just a country road of a highway that goes through it, but I mean, it slows down in the town and then speeds back up when you get out into the farmland. But yeah, I mean, back then that's what you were supposed to do is you work around the farm and help your parents and do all that stuff. And then here you got these, a spinster who just wants to pour you a drink and listen to your sob story. And then just for that, she was murdered, and the other one, she's just trying to run a business and sell you stuff. And,
Yep.
she's writing things down and, you've dealt with her on almost a daily basis. And then all of a sudden something clicks and no, I need to take your life now. And for what? What was the purpose?
Yeah.
Because you have mommy issues, you know. Um
And undiagnosed mental health stuff going on too as well. I mean,
Right, right. But how much of that did mom start, though? That's the thing.
oh
Because
yeah,
Hmm.
mom was the iron fist. It's her way or the highway. And she didn't like the charlatans that would come around and, you know, her boys, she didn't want to have boys to begin with, but
yeah,
she's stuck with these boys. So, yeah, I don't want you around these girls. I'm the only woman that needs to be in your life.
yeah.
So, it's a tragic. I mean, not to downplay what he did, but it's just the whole thing is just a tragic thing. I mean, it's just tragedy from start to end. Ed came into this world in a messed up family to begin with, and then it just snowballed out of control, and then
Yeah.
people
Crumbled.
lost their lives.
Yeah.
I
And
always
then,
think like what if Henry would have been alive? Would she have had another stroke? Or would they have had somebody to lean on, in each other?
right,
Would those women have lost their lives if Henry and Ed had been able to keep the farm going?
right, because he didn't start doing any of this stuff until after mom had passed, I'm assuming,
Yeah.
because I'm sure mom would have said something about, him having these body parts.
Ed probably
And
wouldn't have lived.
Yeah. Yeah. So I don't know. I'm interested to see what Netflix has created for sure and see
Yeah.
what their spin on the story. Because it's an interesting story. It's a sad part of Wisconsin history. But it's something that, unfortunately that's what we have in the Midwest. We have a lot of that stuff. We've got Ed Gein, we've got Jeffrey Dahmer, we've got
Casey.
Casey. I mean, we breed them really well around here, I tell you. Um,
Yeah.
Unfortunately, I mean, there's a lot of things to do in the Midwest. It's not just all about serial killers, okay? But when they kill, they make headlines for sure. And it just seemed like we should talk about, what had happened with Ed, um, and not to forget the victims because,
Yep.
that's what really matters are those victims and what they had to deal with in their families. They always glorify the serial killers and they always forget about the victims, and that shouldn't happen. The victims are victims for a reason. They had, given their lives unwillingly, um, for some person to, get their fix. So, I mean, Bernice and Mary and the other ones, that were not named, and those that we're not sure if they actually were Ed's victims or not, they all deserve to, finally rest in peace. And hopefully they are able to find that. Um, it's kind of hard when you're not buried with your entire body the way you were born. That's hard. It's even harder
Yeah.
for family.
Yeah, big time.
I mean, I can't even imagine these people that, had their families buried at the cemetery, and then is my family member going to be next on the whoever is taking body parts and stuff like that and grave robbing? Do you sit out at a cemetery and just like watch your loved one's gravesite to make sure
It's
that
just
they're safe?
amazing that that was undetected.
Yeah. But I mean, like I said, look where it's at,
Yeah.
you know.
Soft,
And
marshy, sandy ground.
Right.
Very, very,
But
very weird.
he also had to, drive all the way over there, dig the bodies up, and then drive all the way back. Because I mean, when we
Yeah,
went around, some of those houses, they're newer houses. They weren't there when he was there. So I mean, there was a lot of open
that
land.
is true. Yep.
and
Yeah,
the thing is, like, he also wasn't taking like all of the people, like he was
right.
taking certain things off the people. Sometimes it wasn't the entire person. It was, you
Right.
know,
And did they have like a caretaker that stayed around?
I
Was
can
there at
imagine
the time?
kind of where it was located, probably not, because they had a volunteer fire department and
Mhm.
everything's pretty spaced out. I mean, I can imagine they probably had like a town mortician or someone from the church who was in charge of, embalming and things, but I'm
Right.
sure that there wasn't a full-time person like we think of nowadays, where someone's going to be on the grounds to make sure that, nothing nefarious kind of happens.
Right. I mean, who thinks of that back then anyway? I mean, who thinks about
Right.
it now? Like, oh yeah,
Yeah.
what are you doing this weekend? Oh, I'm gonna go, dig up this body because, I heard they just got buried. Who thinks like that, nowadays? Even
Yeah.
then.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I mean, yeah, I can understand why people wouldn't be hanging out there, but then afterwards, I mean, I'm sure they had to have hired somebody to watch the grounds,
And
especially after
again,
like the
I
first or
was,
second time that you go out there and like, that's weird. Why is that? That person's been dead for a while. Why is there freshly dug up grave there? I don't know.
yeah. And it also made me think like he had so much like of the skin parts of people.
Hmm.
How many people were freshly buried that the skin wasn't gone, I guess is the best. I'm sorry,
Right.
not I don't be like disrespectful, but
Right.
like, but when we as people decompose, the skin doesn't stay supple.
Right. And back then, like now, when you bury a body, normally you have like a cement vault that goes around the
Right.
casket. Back then, I don't think they had those. It wasn't like a normal thing. So, I
No.
mean, and the reason they have that vault is so that the moisture doesn't get in. And so the bodies can stay. I know it's kind of gross.
Yeah.
We should probably have a
Sorry.
disclaimer on this, but
Yeah.
um,
Probably.
hi Bella. Um, there it's not like now where the bodies can, you could, I don't know even how to do this without being too descriptive. Now it seems like with that vault in there, the bodies do not decompose as fast
Hmm.
versus back then. So I mean,
Yeah,
he
months versus probably weeks
right, right,
difference.
right. You do this every podcast. Thank you,
She's
Bella.
the director.
Right.
She's the she's the director.
She's
She's
like,
like,
and
and
cut.
cut.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly.
You've gone over
We'll
your
wrap it
allotted
up
time, Mom.
soon.
Get off the dang computer.
Right. Jeez, we'll get off soon. You guys got anything else to add? I mean,
Watch
I'd
the
like to go
Netflix
back.
show.
I just, we missed that memorial part,
Yeah.
and
Yeah. I'd like to pay
and
respect to them, Uh,
yeah,
And I know Bernice has she's with her family. She has a very nice plot. It's a family plot. Um,
yeah,
but, it would be nice to be able to pay respects to the other victims, body parts, I guess you could say. The other victims, whoever they may be, because we don't know who they are. We know some of them, but not all of them.
wonder. I should have asked this long before we went out there, but like, if there's not a map that shows where people are at on those grounds, be nice to throw one together and put it out on Facebook.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, you can go on Find a Grave and
Yeah,
you can put in their names. Obviously, the one that is dedicated to the people that, they just put them all in one little plot. That one they probably won't have on Find a Grave. But if you go on to Find a Grave, you'll get Ed, Henry, Augusta, George, Bernice. You'll get theirs. You can find theirs.
yep,
Um, I don't think they might actually have a map on Find a Grave for the cemetery itself.
yeah, like
But
an
like I said,
aerial view or something.
but they do have like the latitude and longitude of those plots
Mm-hmm.
too.
Well, I wonder too if maybe the historical society had something because I know like the larger cemeteries down here, you can go
Mm-hmm.
to like the office and
Mhm.
then you can say, "Hey, I'm looking for so and so," and they'll give you a map and they'll mark it on your map to see like kind of where it is. So I kind of wonder if they have something along those lines, some type of historical records of who's buried where.
Well, I didn't pay
Uh,
attention to the sign when we pulled in who takes care of it because usually the
right,
sign will say who takes care of
right.
cemetery. I didn't pay attention to that. I saw like all the rules and everything, but I didn't see who actually is in care of that cemetery in particular.
Yeah, and if you want to go to the Historical Society, it is only open Saturdays from 1 to 4.
Yeah,
Very unusual for a historical society.
it is. But
The
it is a
It's a
volunteer
small
small
town.
historical
town.
society.
Yeah, they're probably
They
the
have to,
postman, the
right.
sheriff, the fire department
Right.
guy.
They got to work at the Bell Communications telephone company.
That's
Right.
right. Yeah.
Hey, look, I did look and they do have a police chief and a fire chief. Okay, so it's two separate people for that position. That I did see. But I can't say anything
Uh,
about any other positions in the town. So,
yeah, too funny. So we got to
but
go back for that too.
yeah, I probably what do you think? This spring we go back? Because I don't want to dig up any snow area, to
Dig
go.
up, huh?
Yeah, that was the weird thing. The
Right.
video that I watched that's how I found out about that other site was the guy was out there with the shovel. I'm like, really? You're gonna
Yeah,
go?
that's not creepy.
I'm like, he's sitting there digging the snow out of like where Ed should be, and then he got over because hers is off the ground, so hers isn't so bad. But the other one, that is supposed to have the dedication, that one there, he had to dig, and then it was like frozen over with some ice, so then he's messing around with that, and I'm like, you are really, I know you have just a snow shovel, but still, man, I would not be going there with a shovel. That would be the last thing I would want to do in that town. Because you're going to have
Well,
people looking at you like, what the heck are you doing? But
Yeah.
obviously,
yeah.
he is from that area, so they must have known what he was doing. But still, it was just like,
Again, small town.
yeah,
Everyone knows everyone.
everybody knows everyone. I'm sure if we stayed there any longer, they probably know all of us too. Because that's just how it works around in little towns, especially in Wisconsin. We know
Hmm.
everybody and anybody. Doesn't matter, you could be in Milwaukee and you know somebody in Kenosha, or you could be in Racine and you know somebody in Stevens Point or whatever. It's Wisconsin. We all know each other somehow. I don't even know how that works, but yeah. It's like that 7 degree,
Right.
was it the Kevin Bacon thing? You're
Yeah.
degrees away
Seven
from
degrees.
Kevin Bacon.
Oh,
Yeah.
yeah.
That's us in Wisconsin. Us Wisconsinites, we're like 7 degrees away from each other.
I was gonna say I have seven degrees to Ed Gein, so it's fine.
Yeah, see, and then just with us, yeah, we're the same thing because of you. So,
Right?
see, it
I
works.
got I got on your tree.
Well, who do you know?
Yeah.
I don't know. That would be a weird tree. All right, you guys got anything else about Ed that you need to let off your chest or anything? Get out of your head,
May they all rest in peace.
right? Um,
Yep.
yeah, I mean, I hope that the families have gotten some peace now that everything is settled and all that. And I know every time that they come out with something new, I'm sure it opens up new wounds. So our hearts go out to you. I'm sorry that you had to live through all that. Our hearts go out to Plainfield because, you guys are gonna get busy again, unfortunately, because of the whole Ed Gein um, Netflix thing coming out. You're going to get a lot of tourists. When you go to Plainfield, though, don't bother the people. Just do your thing. Go there, spend some money in the community to help them out. That's the way you can like support the community. Go there, even if it's just to buy some gas. Anything helps those little communities. Um, so, but be respectful if you go to Plainfield, please. Um,
Yep.
but yeah, we'll probably go back next spring for another visit, so that we can pay our respects to everybody that we missed. Um, and then yeah, hopefully Netflix does the program justice and tells the true story properly, and maybe we'll critique that. I don't know, on a podcast. Maybe we'll just critique it on our social media and see what everybody thinks of it.
Yeah.
Like a book club, but we just
Yeah, right.
Right. Yep.
Yeah. So I mean, it's the start of creepy things in October because today is October 1st, but we're not going to be posting this until probably October 3rd, which is the day that, the Ed Gein thing comes out. So, welcome to October and the spooky season. So, yeah, we'll probably come up with some more stuff throughout the month. We're going to be kind of busy ourselves on the weekends. But we'll get some more podcasts out this month for you guys. And if you are around in Milwaukee area, come see us to our booth at the Milwaukee Paracon on the 18th. And then we're going to be in Racine Public Library doing a presentation October 11th from 1 to 2. So come by and see us. It's a free event. So stop on over to the Racine Library. And then I think at the beginning of the month of November, so a month from today, we will be in Round Lake and their library down there doing public investigation. So yeah, we're got some stuff happening this month. It's real little
Hmm.
busy. But if you want, you got nothing to do, come see us at least the Racine and the Milwaukee Paracon. Definitely Milwaukee Paracon, check it out because it's not just going to be us, it's going to be other things happening there, other teams, other vendors, and they got speakers and stuff like that. So come out. It's a free event too. So check us out. We're going to be there from, I think the thing starts at either 9 or 10 till 5. So yeah, it's at the Irish
All dear.
Heritage Center, so in Milwaukee.
Near the rave for those that don't know Milwaukee.
Yes, yes. So parking isn't the greatest. They don't have a lot of parking. It's parking on the street, but it is a good event. So, and it's going to be
Yeah.
the last time they're going to have it at the Irish Heritage Cultural Center too this year. So, yeah. So other than that, I got nothing else for you guys. So I guess for our skeptics, keep us grounded. For our believers, keep believing. Kathy, have a good night.
All right.
Bye.